Hi, Sorel. Buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Buenos días, Hugo. Qué gusto verte. Me encanta verte. It's so good to see you.
Igualmente. Hey, so I have some rapid fire questions for you. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you really quick before we get started.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
I'm ready.
so, so, which one of your favorite books would you turn into a feature or a series?
The Alchemist. Did
The
you ever read The
Alchemist.
Alchemist by Paulo
N-
Coelho? It's one
No,
of the
I heard
most,
of it.
it's one of the most, I read it a gazillion years ago. And it's just a very inspiring book. It's a book about how to make how to make your dreams come true. That
Yeah.
the possibility of having a dream come true is what makes life interesting, is one of the
Wow.
things that they say in that book. And for me, it's just a gorgeous book. So I think it would be inspiring for people. And then he's got a whole bunch of other books that he's written that are quite interesting. But The Alchemist is a beautiful story. I think somebody tried. I think Lawrence Fishburne was really interested in doing
Yeah.
something with it. Not, I don't think anything ever happened, but it's a very inspiring book.
Well, that's on brand for what we're talking about today, so that's great. And I printed out your resume, and
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff on there. So my next question is, if you were to relive one day on one of those shows, which show would you want to go back on set for?
Mr. Iglesias.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I've heard all the
I
stories, and
Yes, I love that show. I think Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias is just the most wonderful human being. He's a Latino
yeah,
and he's very inspiring and he's a really good soul. And I'm happy to say he's getting a star on the Hollywood Boulevard next year.
congrats to him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
that's
pretty amazing. So,
well
and
deserved.
that show for me just was so joyous and so perfect. I
Yeah.
loved everything about it. So, yeah.
Great. My last question is, if you could ask or interview anybody, dead or alive, who would it be, and what would be the first question you want them to answer?
Audrey Hepburn. I love Audrey Hepburn. And I want to know how she felt when she acted in one of my favorite movies, Sabrina. I
Sabrina.
just think she's such a class act and also a true humanitarian,
Yeah.
and I just love her. I think she's wonderful. So that would be
Awesome.
my person, I think. Just at the top of my head,
Top of the head.
it's the
First
first name
person.
that came up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you for answering those. And like I said, I want to jump to it and
Okay.
revisit all your work and the things that you've done in over 30 years now, you mentioned. So are you
A
able to
little over
start
that. A little over that.
a little over that?
Yes.
Um, would
I
you
have to
be able
tell
to?
you, just to tell you, my first job, and I remember the date.
Yeah.
I started as a casting assistant at a company called Witt Thomas Harris on July 12th, 1982, straight out of college. There you go.
There
I
you go.
just dated myself there.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear all about that. I think that story is one of the inspiring ones that I've heard from you. But would you be able to start with your name and what you do as a script
Sure.
supervisor?
So my name is Sorel Kaire because I'm originally from Guatemala. I'm pronouncing it the way, or I would go Sorel Kaire. For all of you guys that don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And I have had a career in script supervising for quite a few years now.
Hmm.
And I got lucky in the sense that I landed, in my personal opinion,
Yeah.
in the warmest and fuzziest little corner of this huge entertainment, film, television industry. I was lucky to land in the sitcom world,
Yeah.
which is so warm and fuzzy and so loving. Oh, I'm not going to say it's easy. I've worked on very difficult shows with
Right.
difficult personalities, but it's got it's a family. That's what I love about our beautiful sitcom world, which is where I met you on a show
Yeah.
called Mike and Molly. And can I say how proud I am of you, of all that you've
Thank
accomplished?
you.
Hugo, I'm in awe of you because when I met you, you were working in the commissary, and look at
Yeah.
you now. You're just amazing because of your talent and your perseverance and your personality and your warmth. Look at all that you've accomplished. And to top it all up, you're giving back. You're
Yeah,
paying it forward. And I think that's where the game is. We all need to be able to do that at some point.
that's exactly it. Only, I mean, this all sparked because I was always thankful for having you guys there for me when I was young and starting out. And I know that's actually something very hard for young people to get some guidance or some mentorship. And that's why I wanted to make these videos just so that they feel like they're in this Zoom call with us and they can find out more about what you do and see if that's something that they're interested in. And that's all the questions that I would ask all of you guys. And then, especially when I was like writing my first comic, I would always bug
Right.
you about, hey, do you mind reading this? Can I get some notes on this?
I remember.
So
Yeah.
it was a lot of meaningful stuff for me. So I appreciate you.
I agree with you. I think we should always pay it forward. I can't tell you how many kids from Guatemala that
Yeah,
their parents say to me, Sorel, my nephew's coming or whatever. Can you talk to them? And I
right.
always love doing that. I
Me too.
always love doing that, right?
Yeah,
Because we're lucky to have made it in an industry where everybody says, if you don't have a cousin or a father, you're never going to be able to work in it. And
very true.
I don't know about you, but I had nobody in the industry
I had
when I
nobody.
started. I got lucky straight out of college. But, and when I say I got lucky, you get lucky when somebody opens a door for you, but it's when you cross that door, it's
Yeah.
up to you. It's what you do with the opportunity that is what gives you more opportunities or stops your career right then and there.
Yeah, and no job is a small job or meaningless job.
Not at
My
all.
first
Not at
job
all.
was to make a t-shirt, and from that job, it just launched me to believing in myself and my creativity, and for to see the reaction of my first project from everybody around me, just gave me that boost of wanting to keep going. And then even if I didn't book that next job so quickly, I still was always preparing because it will come.
And the fact that you didn't get discouraged
Yeah.
because we get a lot of no's. I
Right.
got lucky. I didn't get that many that well, I've gotten no's in other things, but
Yeah.
my career just kind of sort of I went with the flow.
Yeah.
I just open. My dad always used to say, we get opportunities every day, and it is up to us to either have our ears, our hearts, and our eyes open and take them
Yeah.
you know, without fear,
Right.
you
Yeah, and
know.
I mean that fear is going to come, but like I mentioned before, just being able to have that support around me was what got me to go over that hump and to be able to talk to somebody before my interview or to have someone
Mhm.
look at my resume before I turn it in. That was a lot for me to be able to,
But you created that atmosphere, Hugo, and
yeah,
this is what I want people to understand. You create your reality by the way you treat people,
right.
by the way you help people,
Yeah.
by the way you are. I think it's all about energy. As my older years, I'm realizing that it's the energy that you bring to a place, and
Yeah.
your energy was always open and sweet and enthusiastic. So of course people are going to want to help you because you always went out of your way to help people when you were doing your beginning jobs. And so, of course,
Yeah.
people are going to be happy to help you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And like you said, I mean, everybody always says their crew is feels like a family, but for me, Mike and Molly was truly like one of those places where I showed up not knowing a thing about TV and film, and then all of you guys just kind of gave me that welcome and gave me that introduction I needed to be able to figure my way around the industry.
Were you there from the beginning? I never asked you
No,
that.
I was on Two and a Half Men for 1 year, and then I got moved over to Mike and Molly, and I asked the team there to keep me. I'm like, please tell them that you want me to be on your crew, and so luckily it worked out, and I stayed there from season 2 to season 6.
I came after you did. I don't know if you remember. There were other script supervisors before me.
I believe so. Yeah.
I was the
You.
fourth, but I stayed
Okay.
till the end,
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that happens. Sometimes there's turnover,
Yeah.
on our on sitcoms. But yeah, yeah, I
Great.
remember. I
Uh,
remember.
well, for Mr. Iglesias, what is it like for you on day one and having that first script?
Okay, so what happens with a script supervisor? I don't know if people actually know what a script supervisor does,
Yeah.
because it's a title. Uh, I've got a lot of things that I do. So I get a script, and you have to read it. One of my jobs is to be a good script supervisor. You need to be able to be a multitasker,
Yeah.
do a whole bunch of things at the same time. I think personality and the way you treat people
Hmm.
is a big deal. And I'll tell you a story about a show, about a commercial later
Sure.
if we have time, when that comes to that. But so you've got to read the script. So one of the most important part of my job during a reading, when we all get together and read the script, is I have to time the script as it's reading, as people are
Right.
reading it, because I guess on Netflix and all the streaming devices, it's a little different. But when I started,
Yeah.
there was a set time. Let's say on a 30-minute show, because these are 30-minute shows, um, the actual running time is 22 minutes 30 seconds. The rest of the time is commercials, right?
Right.
So when you read a script and you time a script, it's important, because if you're too long, then you're going to shoot a lot of stuff that you don't need. And then when you go to edit the script, they're
Yeah.
going to lift a lot of stuff, and it might not make sense. And usually what happens is they have to cut on the funny, because
Right.
they've got to stay with story. So ideally, after the reading of a show, and the timing, you want to be 2.5 minutes over showtime. There's
Okay.
a little bit of formula that I've designed that works for me. And, I've been doing this a long time. I'm pretty accurate when it comes to timing.
Yeah.
Because some shows are done with an audience, some shows. So you've got to figure all of those factors in.
Elements.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a trial and error until you find the right formula. But, when
Right.
people are reading, you time the reading, the words. But then when you're putting a show up on its feet, there's something called blocking. When an actor gets up and crosses to the other side of the room, it adds time.
Yeah.
When an actor has business, let's say in the stage directions, it says, and Joe goes over to the refrigerator, opens the refrigerator, looks through, and finally picks. So that takes a little bit of time. So those are things that we add that are called spread, that
Right.
I have to figure out, and I add to the timing of the reading. And then also that when you put it on its feet and it's on camera, some directors have sweeping shots, camera moves. And so you also have to account for camera spread.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's the laughter. So
True.
there are different ways of timing a script. You either time it with a laugh spread, or it depends on, I've got my own formula, but I don't want to get to it because it might be boring for some people, so that's that. But it's a whole science to that. But again, the stopwatch doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, you just go and you say, so we're 7 minutes long, you need to cut. Or we're on Chuck Lorre shows, we were always under time, always short. And my hair the first time went like this, and it's like, oh no. But it depends on what producers want to do or don't
Right.
want to do. Your job is to say it. They
Yes.
have to take. So the first day, it's that. It's the reading. You have a production meeting first,
Yes.
and then there's a reading. And my job is to time it and then to talk to the producers. Sometimes you rehearse after the reading, sometimes
Okay.
you don't. Because, as you know, and I'm sure any of the writers or directors that you've interviewed have covered, they rewrite the script every single day. So
Yes.
after the reading, there are meetings, and then the writers go off and they add, subtract, add, or don't add. So that's the first day. Second day, we come in and we start rehearsal. Um,
Okay.
and we put the show on its feet. Part of the job of a script supervisor is to take blocking notes. And what that means is, again, when Joe gets up from the table and crosses to the refrigerator, I've got to know what line he did that on, when he went to the refrigerator, what he took out, when he came back, and when he sat down. Because it's got to match. It's got to be sort of similar
Yeah.
when we're shooting so that things match and you can edit it, you know?
Right.
So that's part of the job. I take the blocking notes. Obviously, I time. I've got a stopwatch. It's my appendage. And I got myself a little time calculator because, as you all know, adding in 60s is not the same thing as adding in hundreds, you know?
Yeah.
It's a different thing how you add time. So I got myself a little trusty adding calculator to make it faster. I can do it without, but why?
Yeah.
So, so we rehearse, we put it on its feet, and then we have something
Okay.
called the run through,
Yes.
where the writers come down, all of the and the writers and all of the tech crew that's there comes down, and the first run through is just for the producers so that they can see what works and what doesn't work. So you put it on
Right.
like a play. I time it at the end of the day. Again, I tell them how long we are or how short we are or whatever. They go off, they give notes to the actors, to the director. Different producers do it differently. So there's different ways of doing it. In the old days, script supervisor used to be tied to the hip to the director, went to all of the meetings with the director and took all of the notes, you know? And then I would write them out the next day and give them to the director scene by scene so that he could give it to the cast. Um, Now these younger, newer directors don't need a script supervisor. They've got their iPads, they do their own notes, but sometimes you go, sometimes you don't. That
Okay.
used to be a big part of in the old days. The
Yeah.
old days. Um, then again on the next day, um, we come back in, new script, little asterisks on lines where there's changes, so
Okay.
they're easy to find. You go through the same process again, except the run through this time. The network and the studio attend. So network and studio give notes to the producers about what they liked, what they didn't like, and to producers and the director, and that's that.
Okay.
Then they go off and they do the shooting draft, the final script. And that's when we come in the next day to start blocking with the cameras. That's when lighting and, the lighting director and you used to come to the run throughs,
Yeah.
and everybody just if to see what needs to change, what doesn't need, because there's so many elements. I mean, lighting needs to talk to set dressing, needs to talk to wardrobe. You all guys have to be all connected, right?
Yeah. That because we all
And
have to
so,
be prepared.
and also, let's say you're doing green screen, wardrobe needs to know not to dress somebody in green that day, right? All of
Exactly.
those little details that they're covered at the production meeting, but it's always good to that for the people to talk to each other. Now, I am sort of a liaison between the stage and the writers. I forgot to tell you that every day when their line changes on stage, I keep a script and I hand
Yeah.
it to the writers' assistants with any changes that we've done. So the writers can say, yeah, that's okay. He can say that line. No, that's not okay. He cannot say that line. Now, when I worked on Mr. Iglesias, Gabriel Iglesias, aka Fluffy, the greatest guy, he and I had a really good rapport. And our executive producer, Kevin Hench, is wonderful. And he was trying to learn Spanish. So when Gabe wanted to change a line,
Yeah.
I would text him. I would text Kevin and I would text him in Spanish. So it was really so
Oh, that's great.
and
Yeah.
he would read my text to all of the writers in Spanish and he was very excited.
Yeah.
So the one thing I can say when I'm telling you this is that we're lucky that we work in an industry that it is work, it's hard, it's many hours, it's intense, you've got to focus, but it can be really fun if you make it fun.
Yeah.
Fun, it's the relationships, right?
It's true. Yeah. And especially once you get on that set and you definitely start to get to know all the people that, because it, like you said, it's a collaboration. So you got to make sure that you're on the same track with well, for me, it's costumes and set deck, the production designer.
Mhm.
So, but that's my favorite part when I get to team up with everybody else, all the other creatives on the show.
I agree. And it is up to you to be approachable, you
Hmm.
know? So part of my job too, when we're shooting and also when we're rehearsing, it depends. Different shows have different things. Some shows have dialogue coaches, which
Yeah,
help writers learn, not writers, help actors learn their lines and some others don't, and it falls on the script supervisor. It's a little secret. It's one of my favorite parts of the job when I get to do it because
yeah,
I don't know, it's fun. On Mr. Iglesias, I got to do it a lot. Gabe got really used to my voice, and I used to run lines with him before the show because it was a live audience show.
right.
And I knew how to speak to him, to explain lines to him if he didn't understand them, you know? So I was lucky enough that he trusted me. And I know that the line producer kept offering him, do you want us to get, and he goes, no, quiero a la Sorel, quiero a la Sorel, is what he would say. So when we were shooting, and rehearsing and all of that stuff, he only wanted to hear my voice. So one big no-no that, oh, here's another thing that I have to tell you. We have to be flexible because you can't be in a box and be rigid and only do things the way you were taught. You've
Right.
got to be able to adapt to the different situations. Like
Yes.
one of the first things I was told
Hmm.
is that when an actor calls for a line when we're shooting in front of an audience, script supervisor does not scream the line out. We cue them all day,
Yeah,
But if we're in front of the audience, you don't want the audience to hear the line coming out of my mouth.
right.
So usually the stage manager will go in or first AD will go show them the line. But Gabe wanted me to yell the line, and I kept going, I can't do that. I mean, I can't. That's just not. I mean, and I even said Chuck Lorre would fire me if I
Yeah,
did that. Any other producer would fire me. And Andy Ackerman was directing the pilot and Andy says, Sorel, don't yell. And I said, I know I'm not going to do it. But then Kevin, the producer, came up to me and pulled me a sound, gave me a little talking. He says, Gabe wants to hear your voice. If Gabe wants a line, you give it to him.
yeah,
And everything in me said no, but that is what they wanted. So that
sure.
is what I did. Because
Right.
he needed to just listen to one voice. And so that was our deal with him. It's like only and when we did line changes, because there's usually when you're shooting, there are line changes. Oh my God, I'm going all over the place, not going in a straight line.
Oh,
But
that's okay.
part of my job too is to make sure all the lines are set correctly, and a huge part of my
Yes.
job is when we're shooting is continuity.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know what continuity is, it is like if I decide to take a sip and then I go like this and put it on my left, uh, when we do the next take, I need to make sure that the actor takes a sip in the same spot and doesn't put it on the right.
Yeah.
Because when they go and edit it, it's called it's not going to match. So that's one of the things that are important,
And
continuity.
so many people will like ask you for that from the possibly the director to the actors. And that's something that you have to be very sure of what you saw and what's on your notes.
And that's why I tell you, script supervisors need to be able to multitask because when we're shooting
Mhm.
a four camera, it's different on a film and commercials and all, but I'm talking multicam.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in front of a monitor with four cameras. So I need to know which camera to look at to be
Yeah.
able to catch the continuity. I've been lucky enough that sometimes I have the editor sitting right behind me and I will do something. And if an actor is struggling with a performance
Okay.
and is struggling with the lines and doesn't pick up the cup at the right spot, I learned to just look at the editor and go, "Do you care?" And they'd go, leave it because they can cut around it. Because that would mean if I go and tell the actor who's struggling with a performance and I go and I say, you picked it up on this line and then you put it, that's what he or she is going to be thinking of instead of
Right.
concentrating on the performance. And at the
Yes.
end of the day, it is about the performance. So all of you kids, if you ever see that something is different, that they picked it up with one hand and then they picked it up with the other hand and it jumps at you, you need to know that the reason why they picked that take is because that was the best performance.
Right.
And if we're looking as to where it's important, and I can do my best, but sometimes, don't let all of the other script supervisors hear me. But yeah, basically another thing, the way that I think is really important is I think of myself as really I'm a backup for everybody,
Right.
but and for the actors, I'm there sort of like their security blanket. They need to know
Yes.
I'm on their side because I've got to correct them. I can't tell you how many jobs I've gotten the following season or whatever because an actor would come up to me and go, you just say it so nicely. The other person comes up to me and goes like this. You didn't do this. You didn't say the line right. I don't do that,
Yeah, it
you
makes a
know.
difference. And it helps you build that confidence, not only with the actors, but also the producers, because they're going to want you to be able to work with the actors like that on their set as well.
Correct, because I do it lovingly. Maybe because I'm a woman, I can touch them. I'll rub their back to make sure they're paying attention to me, and I go, listen, this is what you said. Is that what you want to say, or And they go, no,
Yeah.
no, no, I'll say it right. I know when to correct them and when not to. I've checked it with the producers before, and I know if it's a joke or something important, I know to correct them. But I always say to them, I'm here to help you. I want you to look good and
Yeah.
I want you to be good. And if I'm telling you this, it's because I want you to get more camera time. If you are reacting when somebody else is speaking, I've done a couple of children's shows, and so that I've talked to the kids, and I go, do you remember Friends? Remember Phoebe? She didn't have that many lines, but she was always on camera because she was always reacting.
Yeah.
If you don't have a line, it doesn't mean you can't be in the scene and reacting. So it's a little bit of like I've got like a little bit of mom energy with them, so they feel safe with me,
Yeah.
and I can correct them because they know I've got their back. And this is what's important when you do my job is people need to know you've got their back. So I have to talk to set dressing, but more importantly to props and to wardrobe, because we need
True.
to know that we are speaking the same language. And if they come up to me and they go, her collar was not, and I go, okay, I'm the one that goes up to the director and goes, or I go, ooh, she didn't put the jacket on, and I got to stop the take if it's important. I got to whisper to the director who's sitting next to me.
Yeah.
Usually, when they do something weird like that, wardrobe and props run my way. And I go, I know, I know. So I'll just whisper to sometimes the director will stop the take, or sometimes they'll let it go through and then we do it again.
Yeah.
But I've got to be able, when I say multitasking, is I've got to look at the screen to watch continuity. I've got to read the words to make sure they're saying the right words.
Right.
I got a time at the same time, and I'm taking the notes for the editor. I do a line per each take, and I follow the action, and I write on the line, this line wasn't right, mismatch or whatever for the editor to know. I tell the slate, the person that does that says the person that's doing the slate, it was the A2, and I have to be in complete communication because what he or she has on that slate has to match my notes
Right.
because my script is a roadmap for the editor and for the assistant editor. If they go, oh my God, what was the take where they had the hot dog? Usually in my notes it
Sorel.
says hot dog,
Yeah.
or usually or whatever. So it's a roadmap. So it's a lot of work, a lot of paying attention. I find that it's important to really stay calm because you've got to infuse confidence in everybody. And if you
True.
are scattered, then there's something wrong. I faked it a whole bunch of times. What can I tell you? At the end of the day, was it on the right or on the left? I try to think of what it was during rehearsal, and I go on the right, the edit, and then I write a note for the editor. Watch
Yeah.
out for the mug. But you've got if it's not important, but usually I know or somebody knows.
Hmm.
Um, and it all happens so fast when we're doing a sitcom. It's not like on a movie where you've got time to take your notes. Now over here you don't. It's all happening and then you've moved on.
Right.
So it's a lot of work that I do.
Yeah, no,
But
thank you for covering all of that side of your craft. And I would love to hear how you maneuvered around your time at One Day at a Time. Can you tell us something about that?
sure, sure. It was wonderful. I have a really good friend. She's also a script supervisor. Her name's Rebecca Blum.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yes, I
she,
know her.
and she was working at the time, she was working on Mom
Uh-huh.
and on One Day at a Time. But One Day at a Time was shot in the summer, where traditionally there's not that much there's not that much production. The traditional production year starts in August, July, August, and ends in April, May, depending on how many, March, April, depending on how many episodes, right?
Right.
So Rebecca got hired to do One Day at a Time. They had reached out to me, but I wasn't available. I was doing something else. And so I actually I was working on School of Rock at that time. And so Rebecca could only do part of the season
Okay.
because she had to go back to Mom when the
Yeah.
season started. So what
Right.
she did, and the producer was okay with it, is that she did the first half of a season, and then then they'd hire somebody else.
Okay.
I think they wanted someone that spoke Spanish, so of course, and so I went ahead and I don't think I was there the first season, but I was there the second season. Rebecca did the first, I don't know, 6 episodes, and they were like 18 or something. And
Okay.
I did the rest. I came over and I visited, I met everybody, and I was in awe of the wonderful, amazing Rita Moreno. I mean,
Yeah.
what an icon, what a legend, and nice and smart and funny and talented. So that was one thing. The other thing that I was in awe of is Mr. Norman Lear, who since passed. He was iconic in the sitcom world where I started. I started at another company called With Thomas Harris, but
Okay.
he had shows like All in the Family, The Jeffersons, the original One Day at a Time.
Yeah.
He was amazing, a legend, an amazing human being. And I show up and there he is, and he's 96 years old. And my first week there, I think it was his birthday. So
Oh,
he
wow.
always wore a little hat,
That's great.
every day. So here is a 96-year-old man
Hmm.
who the show starts, and usually when there's an audience show, there's a warm-up person that
Right.
warms up the audience, tells jokes and keeps them entertained in between setups, because it takes, like, when we finish a take, things, notes happen, lines get changed, things happen, so somebody's got to keep the audience entertained. So before the show starts, Norman grabs a microphone
Oh,
and
wow.
warms up the audience and tells them stories.
What a sight.
And then they bring out a cake for him in the shape of the
Very
hat he
cool.
always used to
Yeah.
wear. And his daughters come. And for me, and he was there every show night. And,
Yeah.
to work with someone of that caliber, young people, Google him, Norman Lear. He is an amazing, he was, he's passed away, but he is an amazing human.
Right.
And it was great to see him and Rita always interact and always do stuff. I used to do a little thing.
Right.
I used to come in early. It was somebody else established it, so I did. And I was always happy to do that. I used to do that for Joey Lawrence when I worked on Blossom. So it's like you make sides for them. And I would separate the script, either staple it or put a brad, and then circle like for Rita, I would circle all of the dialogue for Rita and
Okay.
for just so that they don't have to carry the script. And so I would keep them on my desk, on my podium, because I've got a podium. I work off of a podium, and I would give it to them, and I would they would come for rehearsal and take it, and then for run through, they knew that on my podium I had the script for them, so they didn't have to worry about that. So that was one of the things that I did for on One Day at a Time. Also, just it was Gloria Calderon Kellett was an amazing writer. Cuban of, I guess I'm sure she was born in the United States, but for her family was Cuban, and
Yeah.
she's come, she's pretty powerful. She directs, she used to be an actress, and she directs and she writes, and, and she was lovely. And we had a very diverse group of writers, because
Very
One Day at
cool.
a Time, did you watch the show on Netflix, the One Day at a Time?
I'm familiar with it, but I don't remember watching it.
Well, there is an episode that is just so apropos and so interesting about the quinceañera, which
Oh,
is
okay.
such a thing for Latinos,
Yeah.
the quinceañera. And the daughter in One Day at a Time. One Day at a Time is about a single mother, that lives with her mother. And the original show was different, but they tailored it to make it a Latina show. So the daughter discovers, realizes that she's not heterosexual, and so she doesn't want to have a quinceañera, but it ends up being that she does. But the episode of that is heartbreaking because her father's not okay. The father's in the life,
Right.
in their lives, but not really. It's about the life with the grandmother and the brother, and it is just such a heartbreakingly beautiful episode. You guys watch it. I believe it's the first season,
Okay.
and it's beautiful because it's about family. Whether the grandmother didn't understand any of that, but she was supporting the
Right.
granddaughter. And that show also deals with issues like depression, because the mother was an veteran, and now she works as a nurse at a doctor's office. So it's a wonderful show. So it was a very inspiring show to work on. Trust me, I've worked on really bad shows that are wonderful because you love the people. But this show was not only great with the people,
Yeah.
but it was a show you could be proud of, to say that you worked on it.
That's great.
Unfortunately, Netflix didn't keep it on for very long, because just like they did with Mr. Iglesias, they canceled it after 2 seasons,
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, you did bring up Blossom, and I'd love to hear that story all over again about your time with Maya
okay.
and
I
the.
will let me tell you another little story before of how I got started, so that you kids. So I got lucky. I got hired out of straight out of college. I was doing an internship, and I'm at the internship. The woman gets a phone call. She goes, "I've got the perfect person sitting in front of me." She passes me the phone, and it is to work with the casting director of at a company called Whit Thomas Harris Productions. The biggest one, though, they have a whole bunch of huge shows, but one of the biggest ones was the Golden Girls, which I was a
Okay.
writer's assistant on the pilot
Oh,
of the Golden
wow.
Girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but Blossom was part of that show, part of that company.
Yeah.
So I worked my way up. The people at the production company sort of noticed me, because I guess I always went out of my way without an ulterior motive. You just try to fix things, and even putting up a towel rack makes a difference if nobody else thought about it before. I
True.
didn't do it for people to notice me, but I did it because I saw there
Who
was a
you
need.
are. Yeah.
There was a need, you just fix it. So little by little, I worked my way up. I became a writer's assistant, then I became a second PA, which in those days was a big job. And then I decided I wanted to learn how to be a script supervisor. I told the script supervisor on a show called It's a Living. that
Okay.
this company was doing, and I worked in the office, writer's assistants doing the scripts, proofing, I did a whole bunch of stuff. And so I asked her if she would teach me, and she said, sure, get yourself a stopwatch. And, I kind of didn't love going to stage because if there was a typo on the script, it was my fault, so it was
Yeah.
like, eh. So one day she asks me to sit in the booth because it is a booth show, the old videotape shows. There was the director and we were in a booth, not on set, like you learned with all of us being on set. It used to be separate, we were in a booth.
Okay.
And I said, but what do I do? She says, no, I just got a doctor's appointment. I'll be back. So I'm sitting in the booth. She calls me at noon. She said, Sorel, I'm pregnant. I've got to stay in bed.
Yeah.
I told them you can do the job. And she
Just
told
like
me
that.
just like that. And she told me over the phone
Yeah.
what the paperwork was like and what I was supposed to do. And so, this is where I say opportunities present themselves every day.
Right.
Well, I saw the opportunity. I froze for 1 second and I said, what the hell? I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so the next day, fortunately, again, like you, I had everybody in the production knew me. I always went out of my way to help everybody. So everybody went out of their way to help me. So I
Yeah.
remember there was a moment when we started shooting. That show was a block and shoot. We didn't have an audience, so it was better. I took a breath and I said, "What? I'm just gonna do it." And I started doing it, And then this is just so silly. So then the next week, we're starting to rehearse the new show, and part of the script supervisor's job was to cue the actors. So I'm like looking at my script like this, and the actor says a line, and the actress doesn't say her line, and I scream out the line, thinking I'm saving the day.
Yeah.
And they all started laughing and they looked at me and they said, it's called acting, Sorel. and,
And then you knew.
and then I knew that I look up and
Yeah.
then I'll know when they need a line.
Yeah.
So, but I laughed. Having a sense of humor is really important because we'll make mistakes.
Oh, that's
Couple,
great. Yeah, to be
couple
able
of
to
weeks,
have that.
couple of weeks later, we're shooting. I'm in the booth, the the pictures are this big, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden the stage manager on the PL goes, Sorel, did she have her purse on the right or on the left? And I go, oh my God, that's my job. I didn't know that was part of the job because I
Yeah.
just jumped into it. So I knew that I needed to pay attention to those things. But the point is, I wasn't afraid. I I stumbled, I made mistakes, I learned from them and
Hmm.
I corrected them, and I just jumped. Okay, so that was for you to see how I started on at with Thomas, and then with Thomas had a show called Blossom with Mayim
Right.
Bialik. Mayim was a little kid; she was 13. Joey Lawrence was on it. Ted Was, who then became a director, he was on it, and it was it was a really good show. And so I worked on that show. Loved Maya. Maya and I got a little rapport. She was learning Spanish. She was a little kid. So
Very
she'd like
cool.
talk to me in Spanish and she'd go on the podium with me and we would, she being so smart always said if I had a job in the industry that wasn't acting, I'd want to be a script supervisor because
Wow.
you've got to really pay attention and it's not
Yeah.
an easy job. And so we Blossom finished. It was wonderful. I went on. I did a whole bunch of other shows for you young ones too. I did the original Carly, and I did some Victorias, and I've done a lot of shows. So a couple of years ago, right before pandemic, I get a phone call about doing another show. It was called Call Me Kat with Mayim. She was back after she'd been on Big
Big
Bang
Bang Theory.
Theory because
Yep.
she went off and studied neuroscience and all of this stuff. But then she came back, and then there was a show that she was going to be doing. And I had such a close relationship with her when we were doing Blossom that she wanted me to do the show, and if I was available, unfortunately for me, I was her first choice. And so then I go and they send me some paperwork, and then I go and I look and I see that one of the actors or actresses on the show is a lady, a girl by the name of Kyla Pratt, and I got so excited because I had done a series for 5 years called One on One,
Wow.
which was a Black show on UPN in the 2000s.
Yeah,
And Kyla was a little girl. She was 13. She was Mayam's age when I met her on Blossom, you
that's
know?
great. Yeah,
And so I got on Facebook and I said, guess who you're going to be seeing? And she got really happy. So
very cool.
so it was, for me, it was a treat because I got to see
Yeah,
these two young girls blossom into amazing young women with families and children, and everything, and still as talented and as nice and unassuming. Maybe unassuming is not the right word, but just as amazing as they were as little kids. They grew up and are amazing humans.
right.
So that was a treat for me. Then we did 3 years of Call Me Cat during pandemic. It was hard. Did you work during pandemic?
Yeah, we did a couple of shows, just like one-off seasons, but then we finally got How I Met Your Father right after that. But you did tell us a lot about how you got started and those jobs that you were able to land early on. What, for the young people watching, what would you recommend that they look
Well,
out for?
let me tell you, it's a different world
Yeah.
right now. It's not the same world because when I started,
Yep.
we had receptionists and it was a phone with different phone lines, that you'd like punch a button. And I
Oh
remember
yeah.
I had never worked, like that. And I'm working at a casting office and the phones would ring and ring and ring. And I'd come home, I was exhausted. My boss was amazing. You know, she was so amazing. And I remember I disconnected someone by mistake one day, and it was a big ABC executive that I disconnected. She called back and read me the riot act on the phone. I never forgot her name because she was just like, you know, and I'm like, because all of the, so you had to you have to learn. So those days were different. Now I don't know, are there receptionists? Not really. There's PAs and everybody does, but for me, I was the one that would parcel out all of the calls, and you need to know a lot of stuff. Some stuff you can take care of, some other stuff you need to delegate.
Yeah.
But I would say the best job to start for a young person would be a PA,
Right.
right? Either a PA in the office or a PA on stage, depending on what you want to do, or wherever you can land is what's important
Well,
too.
I also wanted to talk about the work that you do as an author because, as we all know, we also like to keep ourselves busy when there is no work or there's stuff in the works. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit more of that?
So I have been writing my whole life, okay?
Yeah.
It's just what I love to do. And when I say writing, when I was a little kid, I tell myself stories. I've been doing this all my whole life, telling myself stories in my head. And I write poetry, I write a lot of stuff. And it is important to always have a passion. Yes, supervising has been awesome and it's
Right.
taught me so much about everything, but it's taught me a lot about writing too, because I see how the words come down, what works, what doesn't work, and how the word gets put on its feet. Now, I did a little bit of writing for TV and for stuff like that. I've got a couple of things, but my passion actually is writing novels and writing children's books and writing poetry. And I've self-published a couple of books, and I can do that because we don't work all year.
Right.
Now, when I was younger and I was very serious about writing, I would wake up at 4 in the morning. I learned this from a writer, which I should tell you the story on It's a Living. I wake up at 4 in the morning. I write from 4 to 6, then I take a shower and go to work. So I get
Yeah.
my
Just to stay consistent.
and just to, if especially if you're working on a project,
Yeah.
you've got,
That's
because
the hardest part.
you don't have all day. And for
Nope.
me, I know there are people that are nocturnal. I'm better in the morning. My
Yeah.
brain, when you're a script supervisor, your brain has to be engaged at all times. You can't afford to lose your concentration.
Yeah.
So when I get home, this brain says, you want to write? Mm-mm. you're going to vegetate right now because you've got to, calm down.
Calm
And
down.
sometimes we work a lot of hours,
True. Yeah.
on a shoot day, I could be at work for 14 hours. So you just have to decompress. So I do it in the morning. So writing is my passion. It's where I get that feeling of love and excitement. And I've got so many stories to tell, so many stories to finish, which is the next thing. I'm not working right now, so I'm actually working on a young adult fantasy type novel with mythology
Great.
and stuff. So I'm excited about that. But I've got a children's book that I did the artwork for as well. You, the artist, are probably gonna laugh at my artwork because it's like a little kid did it, but it came from the heart.
No, yeah, of course.
I've got a book of poetry that also has artwork that I put in, and it's poetry and a short novella. And I've got a romance for all of you romance readers.
I want to
You
put
know,
a link to all that on this
okay,
video. So
okay,
great.
and so I've got, so you always and always on the off season. I was lucky enough that I always worked a little bit. Like I would do translations since I speak Spanish. I remember I
Okay.
would do translations, and I had friends that would do were doing industrial training videos for Sizzler. So I'd translate their videos and then I'd record the voiceover in Spanish
Oh,
to,
wow. Yeah.
so
All that
you,
helps.
this is when I was younger.
Yeah.
Before, because as people get to know you, you work more and more and more.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, so I had my plan B. My plan B was like, I would do that. I would do translations. I did transcriptions, like all the old shows and the old. I worked for Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, one short stint where I was a transcriber. They'd send you the interviews, and you with headphones you transcribe them and you type them, and so that people can work off of them.
Yeah.
So I would do that on when I wasn't working. I bought myself a little machine and I'd do transcriptions. I always did something else so that, but I also saved. I learned very quickly my first time when I got hired for the first time. And then I said, I didn't know. I thought I was hired forever. Who knew that I was only going to be working 5 months or whatever,
Yeah.
however long it was.
Right.
In those days, it was longer because they used to
Got
do
more
26
episodes.
episodes. Yeah. And they
Right.
did them all.
Yeah.
And so, but after that, I was really good friends with the guard at the Sunset Gower studio, and he knew I was gonna be working. He goes, "Hey, I told my friends over there to hire you," so I would go and work over at the other place. So
Yeah, that was
you,
my intention too, just to get on the lot. I just wanted to be in that environment and just to be crossing paths with these people that I wanted to work with because it did me no good just being at home. I just wanted to somehow get any entry level job, which ended up being in a commissary, but that's where everybody came to us to eat. So it was a big eye opener for me to get to know all positions.
but you also learned doing those positions
Yeah.
on how that nothing is low. Like if I'm going to go to craft service, I'll turn around and I look at the director and go,
Yeah.
"Hey, I know you like Diet Coke. Can I bring you a Diet Coke?"
Right, right.
You
Yes,
know,
exactly.
it's not a big deal for me to go a little. I know they're working really hard. And I, just like I asked him, I'll ask the PA. I'm
True.
going, do you want something? It's no job is small enough.
No, and
That,
then
that,
I had a friend of mine tell me the same thing that because I was pursuing a PA job, and to him it was important that I had work experience working with different personalities because I was going to be working with from cast, being around cast to being around support teams, and everybody is just different. So to be able to work with different teams was kind of the goal for hiring.
and you know what? I, obviously, Mike and Molly was your second because you said you did
Two and a
Two
half
and a Half
men.
Men. It couldn't have been a nicer cast, right?
Yeah, no,
Billy Gardell,
yeah,
all of the people on in that cast were just regular people that
right.
talk to you like regular people.
Yeah, and they
My
would ask
experience
me, I
is
mean, what are you interested in? Well, and then at one point, I wanted to join animation. And I remember Melissa McCarthy and her husband Ben had just worked on Looney Tunes. And
Uh-huh.
they got me a tour of the animated studio, and I got to shake hands with the animators over there. I got suggestions. I mean, it ended up not being for me at the time.
Correct.
I just appreciated the fact that they went out of their way to make the calls to get me to that lot.
But
And
let me tell you,
yeah,
it's because of you that they did that, because of the way that you were
yeah,
with them, because of your energy, your smile every morning.
yeah,
Don't underestimate the good morning smile, the good vibes and the good energy. If
yeah,
you had been a different person, Hugo, they wouldn't have helped you.
yeah. No, I was always, I mean, grateful just to be able to go through those gates every morning. I just
You
thought
were
that was already a blessing and a win for me.
you
So
brought joy. You
yeah,
brought joy to the place and people noticed.
thank
And
you.
so, yeah, people help. Not everybody helps. Trust
Right.
me.
No, right.
Trust me.
Exactly.
You'll ask, I'm not going to go into stories, but I do have those,
Yeah,
where people that are not so nice.
true.
Uh, and as a person, you got to be able to,
Find your
I've
people.
been very lucky
Yeah,
in the sense that I have never been disrespected.
true.
Maybe once, and I didn't accept the job. But I have never, ever been disrespected. But I also give you guys advice, kids. I've
Yeah.
actually left two jobs, only two in my whole career that weren't right for me, and I replaced myself. I didn't leave them high and dry, but I left because they weren't right for me. But I had, and I'm not going to do the say the bad thing, but you always have to have a little money saved up for when something like that happens.
Yeah.
If you're going to be working in this industry, I don't know about you, but I learned very quickly that I needed to have at least 6 months savings.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
hard in the
That's
beginning,
huge.
it's really hard in the beginning, but you have to be able to pay your rent for 6 months because you don't know when the next job is going to land,
Very true.
right?
Yeah.
And so keep that in mind, guys. It's a different world now, but keep that in mind that you should always have to have your backup money
Yes.
for like when I was knew that it was going to be a horrific job for me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it. But I had enough. And at that time I didn't have that many contacts because it was earlier on in my career,
Yeah.
but but I still found a job afterwards. I remember my days, no email. You had to call and you had to fax your resume. You faxed your resume and then you had to call. Did you get my resume? Can I speak to someone? It was hard, but you learn how to do it.
Yeah,
Now
of
it's
course.
easier because you text and you have email. But yes, people really help you along the way
Yes.
when they see potential in you. And they may help you and open doors for you. But if I repeat myself, if I said this already, it's what you do
Yeah.
after they open that door. Like, for example, when my first job, when the person I was working for said, Here, I've got the right person sitting in front of me,
Right.
I went in and I interviewed. And
Yeah.
I hadn't quite graduated from school. I was doing an internship, and I got the first job. Now, getting the first job, and I remember I lied. I said I typed really fast, and I didn't. I said, I'm going to learn how to type faster. I said I typed 40 words a minute. Maybe I typed 15. I don't know. But I did so much other stuff that my boss didn't care.
Yeah.
She never going to forget and always appreciate someone that does this to you. My first time, she gave me a memo to type on the old IBM Selectric typewriters. Typed the memo, I gave it to her. She marked it and read, Do it again. Gave it to me 3 times. And I said, Thank you. And she says, I just want you to learn how to do it right. So she made me do it 3 times until I got it right. I got lucky that I had someone wonderful being my first boss,
Yeah.
who took the time, who saw the potential in me and said, she doesn't type as fast as she said, but she does all of these other things. And What's typing? You learn how to type. Now all of you type because all we do is type.
Mhm.
My day you didn't. So, I got lucky, but that door was open to me, and they could have let me go at the end of the season and never hired me back. Lo and behold, they hired me back, and I worked on the last two shows. I left with Thomas for years, and then I came back, and I worked on the last two shows they ever did, which were Everything's Relative and um, The Secret Lives of Men. And then the company went out of, shut down. They didn't go out of business, but it was time for them to shut down in the late 90s. But people open doors for you. It's up to you what you do once you're in,
Very true.
you know?
Thank you, Sorel. I really do appreciate the conversation, and it reminds me of those talks that we used to have early when I was getting started. And
Yeah.
so, again, thank you for everything you did for me, and I hope this helps somebody out as well.
And let me just say one last thing to all of you kids. There's a thing called pay it forward.
Yeah,
So if someone comes and asks you for help, I can't tell you how many script supervisors I've trained, you know? And hey, there's enough work. Right now, there's not that much work, but there's always enough work. So always be generous with your knowledge.
right.
Always be generous with that. It speaks volumes as to who you are and your confidence, you know? Always have a sense of humor. I mean, so I didn't know what side the thing was on. I laughed, but next time I was paying attention,
Yeah.
you know? So have a sense of humor and do it with joy and pay it forward. And then you're going to be like Hugo, because I am so proud of you. I'm so
Thank you.
proud of you. I'm so proud. And I'm so proud of the work that you do, trying to help and inspire people.
Oh, I
So
appreciate that
thank
here.
you for including me. Muchas gracias.
Oh, yeah, no, you were always first on my list. I mean, we had been talking about doing this.
Sorry it took so long because I was actually working on a Disney show called Vampirina, which
Very
premieres
cool.
right now in September.
All
So
right.
yeah.
Look out for it. Thank you, Sorel.
Thank you. And we'll talk.